Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in to another week of Last Word Productions. I am your host, Tavares Wilson, and y'all know, as always, I get the last word. So, we're going to jump right into it today. You know, there's a lot of news going on in the NBA and the NFL, but right now we're going to start with the NBA, and I want to start off with the seeding positions right now. The H seed is kind of in a heated competition between the Miami Heat, the Orlando Magic, and the Charlotte Hornets, and either one of those teams can make it in the playoffs in that last seed spot right now. But I'm going to give y'all my prediction why I believe going to win it when it's all said and done. I believe the Miami Heat takes it because I ultimately believe the Heat has the better overall team than these three teams, the other two teams, and I feel as if Derrick Jones Jr. is a young player who's coming on exceptionally well of late, especially down the stretch. Justice Winslow is proving he can be a guy who could not only affiliate a team, but he can also carry a load on both ends of the floor because he's a good defender. And I feel as if Hassan Whiteside is one of the more underrated and taken for granted players in the league, especially as a rim protector, because he's a guy that's been in a lot of controversy of late with the Heat's front office and the coaching staff and even other players, but he's a guy at the end of the day that can play. He's going to give you good numbers. He may not give you a Joel Embiid type stat line each and every night, but he will give you good, solid starting numbers. And I feel as if the Heat make this one last push for Dwayne Wade. As you all may know, this is Dwayne Wade's final season. He's said he's going to hang him up after this. So I feel as if they made that one final push for him just for them to send him out with a bang so he could feel what it is to be in that playoff atmosphere one more time. And, just to have that energy around him. I feel like when they do make it, I feel like he's going to give everything he's got, regardless if it's an elimination game or if it's the first game of the playoff series. He's going to leave it all out on the floor. I truly believe that. But the other two teams, Kemba Walker is the best player out of these respective teams, but the Hornets, honestly, I don't see them rallying the troops around Kemba to make a difference. I don't see Jeremy Lamb making half-court shots to win his games anymore. I just don't see it. The Hornets have a lot of things they could do right, but they're too inconsistent of a team for me to see get in this last spot. And Orlando Magic, I just feel as if they're a team who plays well together. Their talent level isn't the highest, but I do feel as if they're a team that does play well together. But at the end of the day, in order to win in this league, in this day and age now, you have to have talent, and their talent level just isn't there for me. But we're going to get into the NFL because this is the finish off my 16 through 1 power ranking teams. We're going to start right at 16. 16, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like the signing of Nick Foles. I'm still kind of sketchy about it, but he is definitely better than what they had in Blake Bortles. I said for years that the Jaguars need to give up on Blake Bortles. He's not the guy they drafted with that high pick. He will never be that guy that they drafted with that high pick. He'll never accumulate to the talent, to that type of talent that they thought he was going to be, especially with the team they had around him. They built to be a run-first team now with Leonard Fournette. They had a good offensive line. They suffered a few injuries. It's a couple step backs, but this team at the end of the day was a run-first team, and when they needed to pass, he didn't make the throws that I felt as if he needed to make a lot of times throughout his career. And at one point in his career, he actually had more touchdowns in INTs returned for touchdowns than he had career wins. And when you see stats like that, it just shows you that this guy just isn't made to be a starter in this league. And I'm glad they finally moved on from him. They signed a Super Bowl MVP in Nick Foles, a guy who a lot of people viewed as a system player, but when he left to go to Kansas City and when he played for the Rams, he didn't do essentially too well. But we're going to see how it pans out for him now. This is a good team he's going to. Have a good defense, just like he had it with the Eagles. They're a run-first team, just like he had with the Eagles. So they might do a lot of things to make him more comfortable in their system, what the Eagles are doing with the RPOs, and just depending on Leonard Fournette to have a boatload of carries and help them win more games. So we'll see how that pans out for them. I do think it's a better alternative than they had in Blake Bortles. At 15. I got the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are a very well-coached team. They're going to always be in the mix. They're going to compete in every game they're in, regardless of their talent level, because they're a lot like the Patriots in the sense that their head coach, Pete Carroll, he's going to get the best out of each and every player on his roster. He may not get it to the point where it will produce or it will give you the results of the moving Patriots, but he is going to get each and every ounce of energy, grit, and sweat out of his players on his team. They have a good defense, young defense. Russell Wilson is still a top 10, arguably top 5 quarterback in his league, MVP caliber quarterback. They do need to do some work on both sides of the ball because, like I said, they're not the most talented team, but they are well coached, and that's what makes them compete each and every week. At 14, I got the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings had a pretty disappointing season last year due to the fact that they gave Kirk Cousins this huge contract, and he failed to live up to expectations in a sense. But I don't feel as if all of that blame he should shoulder all that blame due to the fact that defense wasn't nearly as dominant as it was 2 seasons ago. This was a defense that went from one of the league's most scary and frightening defenses to a defense that seemed like it had off weeks every now and then. Like when the Bills had beat them at Minnesota, I was shocked. I was honestly shocked. Like that was a game that should have been a guaranteed W, but it turned into an L because I don't know if it's because they played down to their competition or lack of execution this last year or whatever the case may be. That wasn't the same defense that we seen 2 seasons ago. That wasn't the same Xavier Rhodes that we seen. That wasn't the same Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks. Those guys wasn't playing their norm. At 13, I had the Tennessee Titans. I always thought the Titans was a very talented team. I think they have a solid good quarterback in Marcus Mariota. They just traded for Ryan Tannehill to be backup. So if anything were to happen to Mariota, you have a guy who's a pretty solid backup quarterback who has proven he could be capable of putting up decent to good numbers in the league. So I think it's a win for the Titans and from that perspective. I also believe they did good signing a pass rush specialist from the Dolphins and Cameron Wake. And I also believe they have an emerging young star receiver in Corey Davis. I've been saying the past 2 years he's a guy that needs to get involved more in the offense. I know they're trying to pound the ball and do little screen dump offs to Deion Lewis and with Derrick Henry, but Corey Davis is a guy, when given the opportunity, I know he can be that number 1 guy. He could be that type of, I wouldn't say Julio Jones, Antonio Brown type player, but he could be the caliber of Mike Evans or Devontae Adams. Like he could be these 1B, caliber type receivers like a Keenan Allen. He can be that guy for this team. I'm not saying he's going to be as dominant as these guys, but if the Titans were to set him up to be in that same predicament as those guys, to play that same role, I feel as if he can get them the production. But it's just on them to depend on him more and, increase his usage rate. At 12, I had the Baltimore Ravens. I feel as if the Ravens got better on the opposite side of the ball this offseason. Signing Mark Ingram was huge for them because the guy named Lamar Jackson, he's a run-first quarterback. A lot of times you don't see that, but he's he's a guy that's going to use his athleticism to get out the pocket. He's going to make throws on the run. And with a guy in Mark Ingram, a guy who can run between the tackles, catch the ball out the backfield, he's such a versatile running back. He can do everything you ask for him out of a running back. And to pair him with a guy like Lamar Jackson, that's a swift army knife for him now. So he can run the RPOs. He can run the read options. He can do little dink and dunk screen passes to him. It's just real. It comes in handy having that type of running back behind you at quarterback, especially with Lamar Jackson's skill set. The Ravens did sign Earl Thomas as well to replace Eric Weddle after they released him. Earl Thomas is a guy who has suffered some injuries throughout his career. He suffered a season-ending injury last year, actually. But I do believe when he's healthy and when he's good, he's a top 3 safety in this league, without question. No one can deny him of that, even if he's getting up there in age. But if he can stay healthy, this would be a huge signing for the Ravens. At 11, I have the Houston Texans. Good offense. This is a team that has a very young, talented quarterback. This is a team that is slowly getting the offensive line to finally come together. They were really good last year, but they're trying to address the issue now. They're invested in Deshaun Watson for the future, and they're going to have to prove that and show that. Just like how the Colts recently just did Andrew Luck. They're going to have to prove and show that they're invested in him fully by giving him the offensive line he needs to be protected. And also, what's going to be another plus for him, his weapons. One of his deep threat weapons, and Will Fuller, will be coming back next year, which will be a huge return for them. I feel as if their defense is pretty good. Bradley Roby was one of the biggest sleeper signings to me, and which they had got. So they have a team that's pretty well balanced. They have a good front seven with guys like Jadeveon Clowney and J.J. Watt up front. And then you got Bernard McKinney at the middle linebacker position holding down the fort. So they have a pretty good team that is in place. I just think it's about execution at this point for them. At 10, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, for me, are at 10 because they're going to be healthy again. They lost a lot. Their secondary suffered a lot of injuries last year. They still managed to get a playoff win. The biggest comeback for me for them, though, will be these two players right here, Carson Wentz and Ronald Darby. Ronald Darby was their number one corner. He's a guy who played pretty well when he was healthy last season, and he suffered a season-ending injury, which derailed his, not only his production but the team's production as a passing defense team. And Carson Wentz going down. I mean, yes, Nick Foles is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but it's still the reason why he's your backup. You're just not as good as the guy who starts before you. That's simply what it is. The guy who starts is the one who they feel as if gives them the best opportunity to win. So to have your number one back would be huge for them, and I feel as if those two players will be the difference makers on this team. At 9, I have the Cleveland Browns. I don't want to be making it seem like I'm hopping on their hype train or things like that, but it's hard to deny this team's talent. They have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. You can start on the defensive side, the trade for Olivier Vernon, the signing of Sheldon Richardson, Myles Garrett, the first overall draft pick. They have a lot of guys on the defensive side. They have a young emerging, one of the best young emerging corners in the league, and Denzel Ward. I feel as if they have a pretty good defense, but their offense is even better. I mean, they signed Kareem Hunt. They had Nick Chubb. Still had Duke Johnson in the backfield. That's just the backfield. Tight end David Njoku. Receivers Antonio Callaway, Higgins, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., and then to wrap it all up, you had Baker Mayfield at quarterback, a guy who was a young stud his rookie season. He's played some of the best QB football that a Browns quarterback has played in a long time, and I just feel as if they have the tools in place to win their division. It's just about how they're going to execute it now. They have a new head coach. This guy obviously believes in Baker Mayfield because he's invested in him. He went out and he got Kareem Hunt, a guy who a lot of teams weren't going to give a chance because his domestic violence dispute video that had went viral, and he was ultimately released by the Chiefs, so a lot of teams weren't going to take a chance on him, but the Browns took a chance. Odell Beckham, who a lot of people say, the Giants organization was saying and viewed him as immature, cancerous to the locker room, things of that nature. But the Browns, again, took a chance on a guy who didn't have the best rep, but they said, you know what, we believe in you to come into our situation to not only make us better, but to better yourself and prove to, the fans, the analysts, whoever the case may be, that you're not the guy they tried to publicize. They tried to put in a story, say you're this type of diva, you're that. Like, that's not the guy you are. And I feel as if that's what the Browns are not only saying, but I feel as if they're showing Baker, they're investing in him. They're saying, you are our guy, and we're going to prove it by making these strong moves. At 8, I had the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys simply has one of the best young linebacker crews I've ever seen in my lifetime, in all honesty. Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith are absolute monsters, and we don't even have to bring up Sean Lee when it comes to them two. And he was an all-pro linebacker at one point, and he lost his starting job to Van Der Esch. In all honesty, those two to three guys at linebacker are scary. They all can play in coverage. They all quick to the ball. They both all run sideline to sideline. So it's going to be hard for a lot of teams to compete against a team with such sound fundamental linebackers. And not only just that, they have a good number one corner in Byron Jones. I do feel as if they need another complimentary for him because Anthony Brown and Awuzie, I don't fully believe in. I don't think they're as capable of a number 2 corner, even the slot corner in the league, to be quite honest with you. Jeff Heath, their safety, he's solid, but he's no difference maker. I feel as if they need to find out one other difference maker in their secondary that can truly elevate that defense. I know they're good already. A lot of people, can go off the numbers and say they're already a top 5, top 10 defense on paper, especially if you're going off of film, because like I said, they have a lot of talent at the linebacker position, and they make it hard for teams to run the ball and pass the ball on them because they are so versatile. They do so many things well. But I feel as if when this team is attacked and when they're having the ball pushed downfield on them, or when they struggle to stop an offense, it's because the people are going after the other corners on the other side of the field. Just like how people did the Seahawks a couple years back when Richard Sherman was playing unbelievable football. They just started, at some points, they just started to avoid them, and they started to try the other side of the field. Like, at some point, you have to address the problem because it's an issue. But even with that being said, Jason Witten is returning for this team, who was always a security blanket for any Dallas Cowboy cornerback, especially Tony Romo. But Dak Prescott had him a season, and he knows what Jason Witten brings to the table. He's a security blanket, like I said. He moves the chains. That's what he does. Most importantly, he gets you the first downs. He's going to go across the middle. He's going to give you the hard grit for yards. Then you still have guys like Amari Cooper taking the top off the defense, and they also signed a really good signing to me in Randall Cobb, who they replaced for a guy Cole Beasley, who is more productive, has more production than Cole Beasley, and they paid him less money. So I feel like it was a good signing for them. That was a really good signing. At 7, I had the Chicago Bears. The Bears defense, in all honesty, is going to be top 5 in the league next year. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I love their corners in Mukamaru and Kyle Fuller. I'm a huge Khalil Mack fan. Danny Trevathan, good. Akeem Hicks, good. They're like, these guys have a lot of good players, especially with the rookie last year, Raekwon Smith from Georgia. He was, even with his off the field issues about his contracts in his early offseason, he still came out and played extremely good. This is a well-rounded team. I feel like this is a team that can go far, but I don't know how far they can go with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback. A lot of people still believe in him because he has the talent, he has the physical build, the tools to be great. But when I see him play and when I just look at him, he doesn't have the it factor for me. Just like with Ryan Tannehill for a long time, with me being a Dolphin fan. I always said Ryan Tannehill had the physical tools to be good. He had a strong arm, athletic guy, big, strong, can make all the throws on the run, and he can stand in the pocket, stand tall. But does he have that grit, that dog in him, in a sense? Same way I didn't see that in Ryan Tannehill, I don't see that in Mitch Trubisky. I don't feel as if he's going to be that guy that's going to take them over the top. I do feel as if they reached for him when they traded up and got him at 2. I feel as if they really did. But they invested in him now. They built a pretty good team around him. I always liked Allen Robinson. They got Jordan Howard in the backfield with Tariq Cohen. They signed Taylor Gabriel from the Falcons a year or 2 ago. So they're obviously invested in this guy to be their guy because they put so much around him already. But I just don't believe he's that guy for them. And that's why they're not in my top 5 as of right now, because I just don't see Mitch Trubisky being that it quarterback, the team quarterback for them. At 6, I had the Indianapolis Colts. Even though the Colts didn't do much this offseason, they signed Justice Houston and Devin Funchess. Really, I really expected them to make a strong move for Landon Collins and Le'Veon Bell, to be quite honest with you all, but it didn't ultimately happen, and it is what it is for the Colts at this point. But I feel as if this is a well-coached team. They have started from the ground and built up with their offensive line. It went from one of the league's worst to probably the league's best in a matter of 3 to 2 years. And this honestly is real refreshing to watch Andrew Luck have a good offensive line for the first time in his career since he suffered and endured so many injuries with that team. And they compensated him well with his contract, and they've also giving him the security he needs with his offensive line. So now he's not only protected, he's well paid, and he can make all the throws on the field he needs to make. And then that defense is a whole lot better too as well. Their secondary could get better. That's why I thought they was going to make a strong move for Landon Collins. But I also feel as if their corners could be better. But one thing about that defense that I guarantee, that you almost can guarantee at this point in time will be good, is Darius Leonard. He's a guy who's honestly snubbed at the Pro Bowl. He should have been there. That was the biggest Pro Bowl snub I've seen in a long time. But that his production speaks for itself. His numbers speak for itself. You could turn on the film, and there was no linebacker in the league last year better than him at his position. Not one. At 5, I had the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers are a very talented team. They always seem to get set back by an injury or 2 every season, but if they can stay healthy this year, they can be a pretty good team. Hunter Henry should be coming back fully healthy. He came back fully healthy last year during the playoffs, but that was literally his first game of the season, so of course he still had his sea legs under him, so he should have a full off season. I hope he has a full off season to recover and to regroup with the team. Melvin Gordon suffered some injuries. He still played, but he should come back fresh as well. Phillip Rivers, veteran guy who had a pretty good season last year, he's going to come back, lead this team to, I believe, another playoff run, possibly a Super Bowl run, depending on how well this team can pan out. And The thing that really struck out for me last year was the emergence of Mike Williams. He became that deep threat guy. He took the top off of defenses, and he just won the 50-50 matchups consistently last year. So I feel as if he's a guy that's going to be big this upcoming season for them. At 4, I had the Kansas City Chiefs. Very, very extremely talented offense. We all know that. They were number 1 offense last year, number 1 in points per score per game. I believe they was also number 1 in yards per game. So the offense isn't the issue for me. Even with the loss of Kareem Hunt, they still have Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins. They still got these guys to complement Patrick Mahomes. So I'm not too worried about that. Even with those signings, even with those guys, they also did a pretty solid signing in Carlos Hyde, who I feel is a very underrated back who just wasn't really given opportunity last season with the Browns or the Jags. But even with all that being said, I just don't feel as if this defense is that good. Even though I love the signing of the Honey Badger and Tyrann Mathieu, I felt as if they desperately need a corner. That's why I felt like they should have really went after Patrick Peterson last year when his whole trade rumors was going around. If they would have got Patrick Peterson last season, I really felt as if they would have been in the Super Bowl. No doubt in my mind they would have been in the Super Bowl. But until they get that number 1 corner, I don't see these guys going to the Super Bowl, because in the passing league without a good number 1 corner, I don't see you going to the Super Bowl no matter how many points you put up, because you can't outscore everyone every game. Just like how the Patriots showed you when they had them start off with a slow game. Once they slow down your offense, your defense won't be able to stop anyone. At 3, I have the Saints. The signing of Jared Cook was huge for me. I feel as if Drew Brees has always been a guy who depended on that bigger body, savvy type tight end. You've seen that a lot with Jimmy Graham. You even seen that with a couple years back with, I believe, Kevin Boss, I believe. He used to play for the Giants, played for the Saints, that Super Bowl run. You've seen it with him. And the re-signing of Teddy Bridgewater is also good, because Drew Brees, honestly, this will probably be his last season. He has a year or 2 left in him. And if they can groom him up, and Sean Payton has already said on record that Teddy Bridgewater is their guy. So if they can groom up Teddy and learn another year under Drew Brees, the sky's the limit for him, honestly. He was always a talented dude. He just suffered a real terrible injury, quite honest with you, and he just never got a chance after that. That's my second best team. I would have to go with the Los Angeles Rams. Even though this team laid an egg in the Super Bowl, nonetheless, this is an extremely talented team. They just signed Eric Weddle to replace LaMarcus Joyner, so it's not like they lost anything at the safety position. They still have guys returning in Todd Gurley, who has been reported to have arthritis in his knees, but he's still playing. He's still kicking. Still have Brandon Cooks, Jared Goff had took another more strides in his career. And Sean McVay has proven to be one of the better coaches in this league, becoming the youngest head coach to go to the Super Bowl last year. So this is a well-rounded team, even with some key losses on the defensive side and the offensive side. This still is the second best team in this league to me. And last but not least, at number 1, I have the New England Patriots. They're Super Bowl defending champions, no denying that. This is a team that has lost a lot of key players this offseason, with likes of Trey Flowers, the likes of Trey Flowers. They lost some offensive linemen, and they had lost Eric Rowe, who was a slot guy for them. But this is a team that no matter who they lose, it seems as if they can always bounce back. Even with the huge loss of Gronkowski just now, after him retiring after 9 seasons, they're going to always find they always had a next man up mentality, and they're going to find someone to replace that production. They may not be as productive, but they're going to find people to replace their production to make up for their absence. But thank you all for tuning in once again to my show. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and follow me on Instagram at lastword_productions. And make sure you check out the rest of our shows you're having on CSR Internet Radio. It's a lot of great shows. Tune in, and I'll see you all next week.